Greg Tepper and Greg Powers at Dave Campbell's Texas Football here on National Signing Day 2023, breaking down the news, notes, and overall takeaways from recruiting's biggest day. Let's go down to H-Town, talk about Dana Holgerson's Houston Cougars, who haul in their inaugural Big 12 class of 2020, of the class of 2023. And Powers, when you take a look at what the Cougs were able to do on the recruiting trail, what is your big takeaway from there? What's the big picture for them, and how did they improve their roster for 2023, their first year in the Big 12 and beyond?
Well, I think that we really got to talk about the transfer portal class before anything else. I think as we think about Houston recruiting, right? I'm going to butcher this name, but I'm going to say it anyway. David Aglubo from Oklahoma. He was a really talented player for them. Big, strong, mobile defender who could kind of do some different kind of stuff. I really like the addition of him. Stephon Johnson from Oklahoma State. He had a really good year at wide receiver for the Cowboys. We all know how good he was at DeSoto High School. Coming back to Texas, Ish Harris, coming from Texas A&M, transferred to Houston, a guy who I think is very versatile, can play that hybrid outside linebacker safety style position, a guy who can really get after it a lot. Jalen Garth, offensive line transfer from Texas. You know that Texas had one of the most talented offensive fronts in the nation, and Garth, looking to get a little bit more playing time, has decided to transfer back to Houston. He was from Port Neches Grove. So they've got 13 guys as we speak about it right now in the transfer portal, and I think a lot of those guys are going to instantaneously change that roster, right? And I think that that's something that's going to be a continued key to success for Dana Holgerson there at UH, because they're going to need to do this to be able to consistently fill out, the roster and match those guys up with high school players, similar to like what SMU's been able to do up in Dallas. I think that is going to be a continued recipe for success for the Cougars.
So obviously doing a lot of work in the portal there is Dana Holgerson, but it wasn't just portal guys that they're bringing in this class of 2023. When you take a look specifically at the high school players that they're bringing in, is there a trend line? Is there something that you're noticing about what they're doing, or just a couple players that you like that they brought in for 2023?
Well, what they did at the receiver position in the class of 2023 is really special. Mikael Harrison Pilot is the number one rated guy on that list. He's one of the most heavily offered or heavily pursued recruits in the state of Texas. He just happened to have a really great and unique connection to UH. His dad played there. So, they had the inside track throughout most of this recruitment. And I don't think like a lot of people gave them the credit they deserve in that one. As a matter of fact, I look all the way back to like the summer. Houston was a team that was trending for Mikael Harrison Pilot for a really long time. You had TCU and Texas in that mix as well. And he gave a cursory look to out-of-state schools like Cal. Cal was one of those that he took an official visit to. But he's the highest-rated guy in this class. He's, a top 50 guy for us, a four-star talent. But they also – and he's the number 10 rated wide receiver in 2023 in Texas. They also signed the number 12 rated wide receiver in Texas, Jonah Wilson. They signed the number 13 rated wide receiver in the state of Texas, and Jacoby Banks, who I love, by the way. Jacoby Banks is one of those guys who used to play quarterback at Fort Bend Marshall, transitioned to receiver full time. He is like unstoppable speed demon. Like, I really think that he will be great in that offense. And they signed the number 8 running back in Parker Jenkins, who I think could also be a receiver. He's a very electric, has a good top end speed. So if I looked at like a trend in this class, is they signed Matthew Golden last year. They signed a lot of great wide receiver talent this year. They have some receivers come. Like, they're building an elite offense, guys who can catch the football. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch it moving forward, because I think that's going to be like the way that they attack the Big 12 is they're going to air it out. And that, from a fan's perspective, is going to be fun. And it's going to be fun for me because I covered all these guys in high school, and I'm going to like watching them catch the rock.
Yeah, they are loading up out wide, most certainly. And then, another thing that I think is interesting about U of H is that they have, and especially under Dana Holgerson, not just him, but under previous regimes, they've really tried to seal the borders of Houston and recruit well within their local area. When you take a look at 2023, how did that hold up? Their ability to recruit the best of the Houston area.
I think, I would say like looking at their in-state signings, about half of them were from Houston, which I think is about right. They've picked and choose some really good guys. We talked about a couple of the offensive guys already. I'd like to look at a couple of the defensive guys, specifically Jamal Shaw out at West Orange Start, 6'2", 185 pound cornerback, who could also move over to safety once he gets into college. But I say cornerback because that's what he played for West Orange Start. He can cover. He plays really low. He's in and out of his breaks smoothly. He's a big hitter. He's not afraid of contact. And I think from a frame upside standpoint, he has a tremendously high ceiling. I think that he's going to be a really special player. And then they got Mike Patterson, another guy from Fort Bend Marshall, a lockdown cornerback, a guy who I feel like slipped a little bit under the radar. He was the next level athlete defensive back MVP back in January out of a very loaded group. Very natural corner, great instincts. And he's one of those guys that, when you're a cornerback and nobody throws on you and you don't have stats and like nobody talks about you, that's Mike Patterson to me in this class. He's way better than people give him credit for. And I'm going to give him some credit today. How's that?
I love that. Yeah, no, Houston hauled in, I think, for their first Big 12 class, did pretty darn well. They got to be, I think Cougar fans should be pretty excited about that here on National Signing Day 2023. Powers, appreciate your time, my friend.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for watching that video. If you would like more and to be notified when they come out, go ahead and click that subscribe button right down there. You can also watch Texas Football Today every day live at noon on TexasFootball.com, Facebook, Twitch, and right here on YouTube. For more of the best coverage of Texas football in the Lone Star State, go to TexasFootball.com/subscribe.